AI Art and Accessibility: Rhetoric, Representation, and the Erasure of Disabled Artists. This presentation explores how artificial intelligence is often framed as making art more accessible, especially for disabled people. While this claim sounds progressive, I argue that it often relies on misleading assumptions and fails to reflect the real experiences of disabled artists. My research asks how disability is used rhetorically in arguments supporting AI-generated art, and whether those claims actually reflect the experiences, needs, and perspectives of disabled artists themselves. My argument is that pro-AI accessibility claims rely on simplified ideas about disability, ignore the history of disability art, and often use disability rhetorically rather than meaningfully centering disabled artists. Generative AI tools have rapidly transformed artistic production. At the same time, concerns about labor, copyright, and artistic ownership have intensified. In response, supporters often argue that AI democratizes creativity by making art accessible to more people. Supporters of AI-generated art often claim that these systems lower technical barriers and allow people with physical or cognitive disabilities to create art more easily. Accessibility becomes associated with automation and ease of use. This framing assumes disabled people are unable to create art without technological intervention. Disability becomes defined through limitation, while AI is presented as a universal solution capable of overcoming those limits. Many AI studies rely on what scholars call the deficit or medical model of disability. This model treats disability as an individual problem to correct instead of recognizing disability as shaped by social and environmental barriers. L. Moore and colleagues found this perspective dominates AI and disability research. This contributes to what scholars call techno-ableism. Rather than supporting diverse forms of creativity and embodiment, technology is often designed to make disabled people appear closer to non-disabled norms. However, disability art has a long political and cultural history. Emerging from disability rights movements in the 1970s and 80s, disability art emphasizes lived experience, identity, and resistance rather than conformity to traditional artistic standards. Many artists have created powerful work through disability and illness. Frida Kahlo painted while experiencing chronic pain and physical trauma. Chuck Close adapted his artistic methods after paralysis. Michelangelo continued working despite physical limitations later in life. These examples demonstrate that disability is not simply a barrier to artistic production. Disability can shape perspective, process, and artistic expression itself. Creativity does not require AI in order to exist. AI-generated art changes the relationship between the artist and the artistic process. Instead of physically shaping materials, users generate outputs through prompts, reducing the embodied labor traditionally associated with artistic creation. For many disabled artists, art is deeply connected to lived experience and embodiment. The physical act of creation can itself communicate meaning, emotion, and identity. Removing that process changes what the artwork represents. Disability is often used rhetorically in pro-AI arguments to create a morally persuasive narrative. Accessibility becomes a feel-good justification that can distract attention from issues such as labor exploitation, copyright, and artistic ownership. Scholars describe these narratives as socio-technical imaginaries, idealized versions of the future shaped by technology. In these imaginaries, disabled people are often represented symbolically while remaining excluded from the actual design processes and decision-making. Research shows that AI can provide useful support in some situations. However, disabled users also report inconsistent outputs, accessibility failures, and experiences that vary significantly depending on context. AI systems may reproduce ableist assumptions, produce inaccurate outputs, or require extensive verification. Some tools also claim to support accessibility while failing to meet real accessibility standards in practice. These narratives matter because they risk erasing disabled artists and reinforcing ableist assumptions about creativity and ability. They also oversimplify accessibility by reducing it to technological convenience. This discussion reflects a broader pattern sometimes called tech solutionism, the belief that technology alone can solve social problems. In reality, accessibility also depends on education, funding, inclusive institutions, and structural change. In conclusion, AI is not a universal solution for accessibility. Disability should not be understood as deficiency, and meaningful inclusion requires centering disabled voices rather than using disability rhetorically to defend technology. These sources informed my research on AI, disability studies, accessibility, and disability art history. These are the credits for each image I used in this presentation, in order of appearance.